90-something% or something like that of cases end up in a plea deal. I don't think there's any pressure for him to take a plea.
It's only in his best interest to defend against this new DNA technology. Even the judge actually said that he felt the defense did a great job of poking holes in this technology. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Sinister, and special guest with our live stream today. We've got Joe Giacalone. Wonderful to have you, Joe. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Josh. Good to see you again. We're having some good news on all fronts. So yeah, this is kind of exciting.
This is, yeah, I mean, listen, in your mind, what does this decision do for the case?
I mean, not just for the case, but I think it breaks open DNA forensics from not only New York, but across the country, because New York is historically stingy with this kind of stuff. That's why it has a fry standard. There's only, I believe, 8 states that's in the union that still do fry standards. Everybody else is Daubert or the federal rules of evidence. Some of them are both. I mean, I don't have the exact numbers, but I think it's like 37 had the Daubert. The fry standard we know is a much higher standard. So if you can get that over the bar, it is pretty significant in regards for cases moving forward. And think about this from the families, the victims, missing persons cases. This also not only includes homicides, but can include old assaults. I mean, you name it. This is really opening up.
Yeah, I mean, look, just so everybody understands, basically what we're talking about is we're talking about a whole new level of DNA profiling technology, et cetera, being allowed into the courtroom, which was, quote, either never allowed before or just wasn't introduced because it hadn't been tech.
That's basically what we're dealing with. And it was they mentioned, I think, Idaho, California, where this was used before. So now you add New York to this, and New York is, like I said, a huge state, lots of different things, but they handle their things very and this is not a political term, but very liberal in respect that they really protect the privacy of people and that kind of stuff, not in a political sense, but in the sense of they take privacy very serious. So for instance, in I believe it was 2013, the Supreme Court in Maryland versus not Brady, excuse me, Maryland versus King, said that the police can take DNA upon arrest and put it into the system. New York didn't do that. They still stuck with the conviction route. So yes, that's what I mean by they're very concerned about privacy. So a decision like yesterday happening out in Suffolk County, remind you, right? Because there's lots of counties in New York. It's a significant event, and it's going to be challenged. I mean, it's new, so it's going to be challenged.
And even Brown challenged it, correct?
Yeah. Well, and that's what you want your defense attorney to do, right? I mean, if this was if you hire a defense attorney or you get a defense attorney, you want him or her to be able to pull out all the stops. So, you don't hate the player. He's doing exactly what you wanted to do. I mean, I see the guy get a lot of hate online, but he's a defense attorney. This is what he's hired to do, to provide the best defense. And let me tell you something, Josh, and you know this, but you want to have this guy have the best defense.
I know where you're going with this, right?
Yeah, I mean, because this case is so big and there's so many victims involved and maybe potentially others, who knows? You don't want to ending in an appeal where they said I had ineffectual counsel and I wasn't able to do this and I wasn't able to do that. So yeah, you want to see this as the fight of the century, so to speak.
Yeah.
Between the defense and Ray Tierney and the district attorney's office. This is a huge win for the district attorney for sure.
Right. On his way to governorship.
Yeah, that we've talked about this, right? And listen, it's not unprecedented, right? So for history in New York, Thomas Dewey almost made the White House.
Yeah,
It's
Spitzer.
Yeah, and Spitzer too.
Yeah, before the downfall, but
yeah, well, that's why. I kind of forgot about Spitzer because of his indiscretions kind of thing. But I think, I mean,
with a sex worker, no less.
Yeah, go figure.
Go figure.
Go figure. But yeah, I mean, when you look at Dewey, though, right, almost going to the White House, the famous, Dewey defeats Truman newspaper.
Exactly.
He made his bones by prosecuting the mob.
Yeah.
And and he wrote it all the way to the governorship. And you know what? I don't know if the DA has those kind of aspirations, but I can tell you right now, he's firmly in that position for sure. And no matter what side of the political divide you're on, you can't argue that this guy's had a great run so far.
But to bring it back, and for those who may have an issue, you want Michael Brown to take this as far as it goes, even if it seems like it's overkill, because think about, and this has happened many times. This has happened so many times. Also, by the way, not just it, correct me if I'm wrong, and this is a very interesting thing that was brought up again in Mindhunter with regards to appealing the federal appeals or habeas corpus appeals. Like this needs to be done properly so that this does not. Because, by the way, what could happen, correct me if I'm wrong, is this case goes forward, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but maybe Nassau has their case. And then what happens when he is convicted of a felony charge and then Rex Heuermann's DNA gets put into CODIS?
Right. And there is the million-dollar question, right? Because people think that it automatically goes into CODIS. No, it doesn't, because New York State won't put it in until there's a conviction.
Right?
And it has to go through the state database first, right? So, CODIS is called the Combined DNA Index System. It's made up
Thank you.
of yeah, it's made up of really 2 major ones. There's other kinds of things in there, but basically, for lack of better adjectives, you have an offender database, which is the known database, and the forensic database, which we call the unknown database. So that's basically it, right? So there's a huge forensic database of unknown samples that they don't have a DNA sample for, and some of that is because of states like New York won't put in a DNA sample until the person's convicted, which also, people don't realize that if somebody takes a plea for a case that would have triggered the DNA sample and
Oh
they
my
take
God,
a
I
lesser
didn't think
charge,
about that. I
and they
didn't
take
think
a le
about that.
yeah, and that's a problem, and that's why I am an advocate for taking DNA upon arrest.
Well, see, look, I'm not 100% sure that I'm an advocate on arrest because, we've seen a lot of issues with false arrest, but even if you take a plea deal, would that how is that not, if the plea is a felony plea, how could it not get in there?
Because if it's not one of the crimes that there was on New York State's list in order to take the DNA sample, it won't go into the system.
Okay,
So
but but if Rex pleads, he's obviously going to plead to a charge which would require
yeah,
notice. Okay.
yeah, a case like this, I don't see him pleading this down to
It's a misdemeanor.
yeah, a charge that I mean, gosh, we have 7 victims already
Yeah.
being charged with. So I don't see that even if he takes a plea. But I think at the presser yesterday, I think the district attorney said there's no plea. There's just no
Well, okay, but let's go into that
tap of
one.
the gun. Okay.
Yeah, but first and foremost, let's also thank all of our friends who are watching and paying attention and chiming in. We got Sinead, we got Anthony, we've got Sinister with Josh Zeman. Who's that guy? We've got everybody. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Really appreciate it. Obviously, it is a really important day in this case. Sinead, thank you so much.
Yeah, Sinead.
We've listen.
Sinead's great people.
Where would we be without Sinead? First of all, number
Oh,
one, but number
great
two,
supporter, yeah.
I
And
wish
we
you would.
she and I talk. She sends me messages. I send her messages back.
I know she's great, and I like
I like hearing the Irish brogue.
the Irish. That's what I was just gonna say. It's like, oh, this is cool, you know. All right, so a number of issues here, and of course, everybody keeps talking about the plea, even to the point that Tierney keeps addressing the plea. Um, but Tierney says no. But we've also seen, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of cases where it's just posturing.
I mean, listen, 90 something percent or something like that of cases end up in a plea deal. It benefits everybody and everything. Listen, in the district attorney's case, he's got his stack is decked. His deck is stacked. I mean, he's got with yesterday's decision, boy. He's sitting in the catbird seat.
Yeah,
So I don't think there's any pressure for him to take a plea. And unfortunately, because New York State doesn't have the death penalty, there's no reason to make Rex, take a
take
plea in regard. Yeah, I mean, at this point, he's already looking at life in prison, and that's the worst they can do to him. So
exactly, and that's kind of my issue. Like, part of it gets down to what kind of individual, and we've been doing a little side investigating for our other podcast of what kind of individual Rex Heuermann is. Complete psychopath. The family is a total sham. Basically, that allows him to keep on killing with a cover family. Or is he really the kind of family man, at least that Asa and Victoria have indicated that he was? Is there any reason for him to plea for the sake of his family?
I don't think so. I mean, he's lived this double life allegedly, right? That has gotten him this far. I mean, look, you think about some of the cases now dating back decades. So he's been able to get away with this and do that. And listen, he wouldn't be the first one to have a family on the side and doing some crazy stuff. So
BTK.
BTK or that guy, the Iceman, Kuklinski, whatever his name was.
Yeah.
You know, there've been several where they've had this double life where they pretend in one life to be able to do it, and that's what makes them so successful. And that part of that success is that they keep their secret secret. They have this own operational security that prevents things from leaking out so that a family member would even be inclined to think that this was going on. I mean, that's basically where we're at. Like if this was the first time we were ever talking about having somebody being alleged to be doing exactly what he's done, it's kind of you kind of scratch your head because you say to yourself, "This isn't the first time it happened. So why do people struggle with that?" I don't know.
Right. And interesting. Someone forwarded me a documentary proposal about Kozlinski, saying that the wife was actually in on it, and because there's no way he could be as prolific as he was without without having some kind of help. It's just interesting with regards to Asa, and I know we keep going back and forth and keep going back and forth, and I keep doing research. I listened to a profiler the other day who was looking at facial expressions and social cues about whether or not she was connected. And I wonder if we're ever going to get an answer for that. But wait a second. Can't they give Rex Heuermann his own cushy cell on Plum Island?
Yeah, right.
That would be a Silence of the Lamb reference.
Right. And for those that don't know, Plum Island is this mysterious island off the fork of Long Island that's been used for biological testing and biological warfare and all the other allegations. But it's got a cool lighthouse.
It does have a cool lighthouse. And by the way, there is a long and nefarious history of Plum Island because I did a whole documentary sizzle on that, which we can go into at a later date about Long Island. But let's just stick with this
Yeah.
story. So there's no reason, impetus for the DA to take a plea, to push for a plea deal other than money, other than to save money,
Save
right?
money, right. And
Yeah.
here's the other thing on this, Josh, and my argument has been, or my pushback has been on those who say that, oh, she had to know this and that. If the district attorney had evidence to move against somebody else that they were involved in it, it would have been done a long time ago.
Oh, wow.
He painstakingly put it in the affidavits about basically that these people had no
She was
idea what was
3.
going. Right, and he laid it all out for somebody, and I can tell you, like it or not, that the Peacock show solidified that in a lot of
Right.
ways.
Yeah, of
That
course, of course.
yeah, you know, like, "Oh, I rearranged the bathroom while you were away," you know, "I remodeled the bathroom while you were away," and all this other stuff, you know?
Yeah,
If
different story. So there's no reason for Rex to do it. Some people are saying spare the children. But here's the other thing: Rex, as we know, is a narcissist. Right? We have a lot of circumstantial, anecdotal evidence about his narcissism. I am really great at my job. He would over flaunt his power when it came to even the smallest things with regards to the architecture codes, building codes. Like he would overdo it. He would say to people, "I can find you anywhere." He is a narcissist. By the way, you have to be somewhat of a narcissist to be able to pull this off. So, a narcissist, and let's go back for one more second. It is, in fact, this narcissist behavior that you might say got him in trouble and got him caught, i.e., the Chevy Avalanche. Why would he go back to Amberlynn Costello's house after he had been seen? Is because she um, pulled a fast one on him, and he was so angry that she could try and mess with him right? In his mind, the Long Island serial killer that he's like, I'm going to show her. And so he went back and, that is, and that's what theoretically, in some respects, got him caught. So if you apply that same ideology that he's a narcissist, he's never going to plea, you know, uh, or say, like, they caught me, you know, they didn't catch him. I screwed up. Right.
Sure. I mean, listen, I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist in that respect. Arrogance played a big role, and
Yeah.
specifically in that whole thing, right? So
Right.
being that arrogant that I'm untouchable because, quite frankly, he was doing this for decades already. And right now we have Sandra Castillo as the oldest case involved in that. So, you know, for
we
now,
can, which
right?
we
For
can
now,
discuss. Yeah.
yeah, for now. But you know what? I mean, you look at the arrogance part, and specifically the arrogance part of the Amber Lynn Costello situation, where he was so hell bent on doing that. And listen, that was his downfall. It it took a decade to figure the downfall out, but that was his downfall. A
Sure.
and you know what? Uh, Nobody's perfect. I know they always say the perfect crime, this and that. As we've seen, Josh, the evidence was already there, and part of what I used to do in cold case, 9 10 out of 10, the answers are already in the case file, and it takes that fresh set of eyes to find something. And it's just we're
I
fortunate that it
I
happened.
wanna comment on the fresh set of eyes, but I'll let that one hang out there. Um,
Right.
so 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 with regards to the plea, he probably doesn't wanna admit that he's wrong or he screwed up, but he does wanna tell his story. He does wanna probably take credit for being this elusive serial killer, this, everything that he is. So he'll the question is my next question is, when's he gonna talk? And probably not, uh, not for a while, but, that's the other thing. Now, so that's on the rec side, right? And the
Mhm.
DA side, I mean, it's gonna be a big letdown in some respects if he doesn't get that guilty plea, right?
Of
Politically.
course. Oh my God. Forget about politically, just from publicly. I mean, the public would be outraged. I think that the public is, um, you know what they say? Like they said, all crime is local, right? So this is big in that sort of Suffolk, right? I mean, this is huge in that sort of Suffolk, and I think because of the true crime community and like that has grown to an international story. But one of the things that's going to dampen that is there'll be no cameras in the courtroom. So it's going to be relying on after the fact at each court date from what the reporters say. And it's not going to have the same effect as we've seen in some other cases. A lot of people will be following it, but they'll be following it after the fact. And I think that has something to do with it. But I could tell you something right now. If I'm the district attorney, I'm walking into this case feeling pretty good. And, and when you think about this for a second, Josh, the 2 most dangerous lawyers in New York are gonna be Michael Brown and Ray Tierney because they have learned everything they can or are going to have to learn everything they can about all this new technology, all this new
Oh,
genetic,
very interesting.
and when you think about it, if you're a bad guy and now you have the district attorney prosecuting you on something like this, boy, look out.
Oh,
And
that's interesting.
think about this for a second. Michael Brown, win, lose, or draw, is still going to be the most sought out defense attorney across the country. And I'll tell you why, because he has to learn all these different things. And this is where the new stuff is headed.
Yeah, wow. First of all, great point. I did not even think of that. It's only in his best interest to defend against this new DNA technology. And we also know, and I think that, you probably even, I don't know if you made this point, but I felt you going to make this point. Um, Even the judge actually said in his decision that he felt the defense did a great job of poking holes in the this technology. It wasn't just like, I liked his earlier, "It's magic." But he actually took the time to kind of, take off some zeros, if you will.
Oh, well, sure. I mean, here, listen, trillions, minus a few zeros are still billions. That's fine. But understand this. And I think a lot of people missing that point. For Michael Brown, this is his defining moment in so many aspects, and I don't I don't think he went into this realizing that, but this is where he's going to be. Like, so for instance, if you're a guy in California that gets that gets charged with one of these cold cases and some of this DNA technology, you're gonna go for the guy that's been on the front and center of this, from fight
Absolutely.
from the beginning. I think it's an important aspect, and he's gonna be, he's gonna be a sought after person. Let's put it this way. he's going to write his own ticket or what he wants to do, either commentary, either, doing the lawyer stuff or writing the books about it. I mean,
Yeah.
he's got himself in a sweet spot.
Yeah. And he already makes 300 an hour.
But he's a well-spoken guy. Listen, I read this document from yesterday, and I had to read certain paragraphs over and over again
Mhm.
because it's very technical. I mean, if you think about this as an attorney, you can't be reading something like this. You have to know this stuff. You can't just go up to in front of it and read this thing out and like it's a textbook, like you're lecturing a class.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to know this stuff.
Right, right, right. So so we've got this decision, far-reaching implications, New York, across the country, probably gonna go to trial, probably not going to take a plea. But you never know, unless there's some other piece of evidence. And as everybody knows, there is no death penalty in New York. But what I am interested in is how this could become a larger case. And there's a couple things that have been brought up here. Most importantly, first of all, if he's convicted, suddenly his information is in CODIS, and let's say, right, it pings to Las Vegas or one of the Carolinas, right?
Hypothetically, of course.
Hypothetically, of course. Suddenly, could that turn this into a federal case?
Right, but it's gonna already be a conviction based out of New York. And what the feds would do in that situation, because when I was in the cold case squad, this kind of happened sometimes where you had a case, specifically drug cases that turned into a federal case, and they get, through either through a proffer or through something else where somebody admits to a murder or they
Hmm.
find evidence to a murder, they would then notify us, the cold case squad, and say, here's the affidavit, the probable cause affidavit, here's the statements that he made, and then we would then go file the paperwork and make the arrest on him for the murder. And that's how that would go. And I think that's what something that you would do. I think the feds would just kind of quarterback this thing because at that point, if he gets convicted, he's looking at life without the possibility of parole anyway. And at that point, you close out all those cases and you look at it that way. But the feds want to rip him out and execute him for that. At that point, I don't think we're gonna. I don't think we're gonna see that. That would have
Right.
if that was going to
Overkill.
trigger, it would have been before. Yeah,
Well,
literally and figuratively.
how could have you have made that before?
If they would have had the DNA before this trial and a case popped up somewhere else, right?
But they
Now
couldn't have
maybe
put it in CODIS.
well, and said if, right? I was using the word if. So if this would have went into the system and popped up somewhere else, then you could be looking at a Hobbs Act or where you or transactions between state lines and this and that. I mean, listen, this case to me was on a thin wire's edge between going federal. The feds are always lurking in the background.
How could it have gone federal
Well,
without the CODIS?
if he picked up one of the females in Jersey and drove them into New York. Okay,
Mhm.
so now you have the commerce,
Yep.
you have
Interstate
the
commerce.
commerce,
Right. Yeah.
right? The interstate commerce. So I think it's the Hobbs Act, which I think would be referred to as the Little Hobbs Act because the Hobbs Act was for like stolen cars at the time and all the other things dating back to the early 1900s. So that could have been a nexus for a federal case.
Right.
You know, transporting people between state lines. And listen, some of these were close because some of the girls came from Philadelphia, some of them came from New Jersey.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Yep.
but the question would have come down to is, do you have the evidence or the proof of that? And the answer to that is no.
No, we don't have the evidence where he picked them up, and that, by the way, in some of my other research, seems to be a real lingering question. One of the things that we never got an answer for in the bail documents doesn't really give an answer. And I want to go back to that. But some other people have brought up, well, contacting these people on the internet, could you say that is, the internet Craigslist back page luring, is that internet interstate commerce?
I think that's a stretch in that respect. I mean, the internet has made the world a real small place, right? I mean, if you're using it, I guess, for instance, like if they're using images and stuff like that, you're transporting things electronically over the line, then those things can kick in. But I think sex work has become kind of convoluted in certain aspects.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that and I don't know if there's the political will behind that to be able to do that. So I would probably say that's not gonna happen
Okay.
in that round.
So
I don't know though. I mean, I can be wrong. I'm not.
Joe, come on. You're always right. First, well,
Yeah, right.
listen, one thing we've definitely proven is that you are right about 90% of the time, and that's way higher than anybody else in this case. So let's give you some shout out there. Of course, with an assist from me, but but you're the lead detective on this.
It
Uh,
takes, it takes a village.
a couple other things. There's still a ton of evidence outside of all this
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, and once, sometimes I do too, because I mean, yes, I grew up with this case basically in my backyard. I mean, I didn't grow up technically, right? I mean, I was already old. I was already in the police department. Actually, I just retired when this case really started kicking off, and I was looking for things to do and follow. And since it happened in my literally in my backyard in Jones Beach, I really took an affinity towards it because not only was it started like in my own hometown kind of thing, but this was like one of the largest cases that New York has ever seen. And you don't get that chance sometimes. So I was pretty invested in this from the very beginning. And to think about the amount of the victims and stuff that was involved in this, you kind of look at it in that respect. Because I spent a lot of my formative years protecting victims and doing all this stuff, so this
You
became
were
not
made
that I
for
was
this.
well, it was kinda like, I mean, and listen, I ran a cold case squad for all time, so I had some of the yeah, and I've never been, I've never I mean, other than the newspapers and the media that wanted to talk to me about this, I mean, I've never worked with any of the people that are involved in this case, no, I
Yeah,
don't know any of them.
yeah.
So, to me, this has all just been outside observations and, things that I might have done or not have done, but it's like everything else. It's like somebody on a plane crashes, a former ITSB person, whatever, will come in and say, "Well, this is what I'd be doing,"
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
how basically I kind of handle that.
So, Anthony has a great question, which is y- the home search, right? And I think this is a good question. Has any of the victim's DNA ever been found or evidence in the home?
Well, with that, we don't know, right? So,
But come on, we would have heard if that was
hurt
the
by
case.
now, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you look at the pictures of that place too, I mean, I wouldn't have been a bit surprised if we found Jimmy Hoffa DNA in this thing. I mean, joking, of course, folks, joking,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it's a bit of a mess, the house.
Hmm.
And I mean, they did remove those ceiling pieces. So things that were in that document, which we might get into today, then corresponded to, things that were removed the house the second time. Because remember, folks, there were two search warrants at the home.
Right, right,
And I think for me, the second one is even more significant than the first one.
right.
But
Because they had read the planning documents, they had read everything, and they're like, okay, is there blood on the ceiling tile? Like they really
right.
started to go to that room, right?
But we do know, according to that document, that he made precautions about hanging things up with the plastic, whatever, too. So it could have mitigated a lot of this stuff. To me, I think that well, we never heard about. Listen, they actually have this physical avalanche. They have the green avalanche. He doesn't get rid of anything. So
Yeah.
to me, that truck becomes an important aspect of it too. Like we haven't heard about the storage facility, but even
That's
then,
what
the
I want
police,
to know. Storage facilities going back to store Silence of the Lambs, right?
right? And I asked the question. I don't remember where I was or who I was talking to, but even those, I think 50 some odd hotel keys.
Yeah.
Do they have the technology to be able to go back and read them, find out what date, time, and what motel, hotel, Holiday Inn did they not find? Right? No, that's all.
Do not want to take a blue light to those rooms.
Yeah, no,
In those rooms. That's a great question. But I think if there was, we would have heard about it. And in some ways, you could almost see the logic in his brain. He's like, they are not gonna. I'm gonna make sure they don't find any evidence of any of my crimes within my home, right? So he's bleaching everything. He's doing everything in the home, but it's ironically outside in the wrapping where we're getting all of this DNA that's found, all of this evidence, trace evidence of the women that are found tragically. So that was a good question. Um, just to kind of shut down the rumors. I mean, man, rumors, rumors, rumors. I heard Rex had snuff films. I never heard anything of that. I think we would have heard something like that. If there's that type of sensational evidence, we would have heard it. We would not be dealing with mitochondrial hairs and things like that. If there was something of that type of nature.
Well, I mean, we have 500 or 400 electronic devices, including a Palm Pilot, right? Talk about something out of the history books.
I love the Palm Pilot.
And we do know that there are terabytes of, I think, photos and videos that have been handed over to the defense. So I still believe that there are going to be some surprises.
Yeah.
Uh, Remember, the district attorney cannot release stuff, cannot state his or her case out in the public. The defense can, but the prosecution can't. So the prosecution is not going to you're not going to release what they have in certain aspects because they can't, right? They can talk about, like, that's why, if you notice, it's been about the direct evidence, which is the DNA, and that's been first and foremost. The circumstantial evidence, I think we've only scratched the surface of what
Oh,
we're
really?
there.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's gonna be creepy and weird. I was just, I wasn't smiling. I was just thinking in my head, you know, what if you released every one of those searches? Like every one of those I just think of my own work as, as a documentarian and all the things that I do all day long. Like there must be 200 to 300 to 400 different websites that I visit daily, right? And you're talking about a guy who's probably porn obsessed, right? Or at least sex worker obsessed, and like, can you imagine the thousands and thousands and thousands of pages or just links of those websites?
And they did release some of that, right? And they did release some of
They
his,
released like 20 of them.
right? And they basically said that these are like the ones we can actually show you. So,
But why? Like why those? Like why
well, I don't believe in coincidences, right? So some of the searches could have corresponded to other potential
we all know
victims.
Asian, right? All
Right.
Asians wait. But
Yeah.
but I do wonder, it seems like they just kind of gave a hit list of stuff, but is there other things? You
I
know?
believe so, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I
are
mean,
we
will
are
it
we
will
gonna
it
go
come into the, will it come into come into play? No, I don't think. And listen, if you present the best evidence that you have right now, the gold standard is the DNA, and that's basically where you're going with it. Everything else is just going to be like, the lights out kind of thing. Last one out, shut the light out before you leave. Like, and that's, and thanks to coming, folks. I mean, that's basically what this is deal with. Like, listen, most cases have just circumstantial evidence. This case has now it does have a tremendous amount of direct evidence, including an eyewitness in Dave, right? So you have an eyewitness too on this. There's another eyewitness, but didn't see him, the one drop in Manorville.
I want to talk about those two on it. Remind me on a different podcast before we start that we should just go through some of the witnesses because I've been reviewing every aspect of these early investigations and I have a lot of questions. Everything from witnesses to contact spot. Where did he pick them up?
Yes. Well,
Where?
we've been talking about this for years,
I
right?
know, but
And that's part. Well, unfortunately, they can't even put the exact time of death down either. So
it's
that's other issues.
it's driving me crazy that I can't figure out whether or not, and I'll just give a preview because I know, guys, we got to wrap it up pretty soon. But did the girls all take cabs to Long Island, or did he pick them up in Long Island?
That's, like I said, we might never know the answers to those questions.
Ugh,
I mean,
it's killing me.
but therein also lies the problem with a potential Fed case too, like we had started off the show with, right? If you could prove that he picked them up in another state and brought them over to Long Island, then all of us, then the whole thing changes. But if that evidence existed, they would have moved on it by now. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I'm specifically saying Manhattan with Maureen, Amber, everybody, Melissa.
Penn Station is like the ground zero, yeah.
Yeah, well, Penn Station
Bus terminal.
and the bus terminal, so, but I'm dying to know whether or not And I'm sorry. I really want to know whether, and why do I want to know? I don't know. It's this kind of really piece of the puzzle that's kind of frustrating to not know how it went down. I've been trying to figure it out for the pings, but okay, we can leave that. That's going to be the next one. A couple quick things to discuss just based upon what happened the other day. Mary Murphy asked a question about cold cases, and I think that that's interesting. And so take us through, if you don't mind, what Mary Murphy asked, and what do you think this means?
Well, like I said, Mary's done a great job. I actually had her on my show again not too long ago, and the district attorney has put out this cold case website, and there are, I think, 7 people on it. One's a known perpetrator and 6 unknown victims and everything else that goes on with it. But it's like, why those cases? Basically, like, why did you pick those cases? And I
Exactly.
say my standard line, I should get a T-shirt made. I do not believe in coincidences, and I think Mary was alluding to that too. And the district attorney, he's in a tough spot. He's got to try to answer these questions. He's on the big stage. He's got a million cameras in his phone, and he's got to be careful what he says. But you know, I look at it as these cases would have some potential tie-ins, and they're out there looking for information. So they're using the power of social media and the internet to try to maybe come up with some more information now that everybody is going to be super focused on this case. So there might be somebody who's new to the game who might have an idea or see somebody and say, "Hey, my nephew was missing, or my niece has been gone. She lived here. Maybe this is her, right?" So that's basically what we're doing here, and this is actually a great step. And I wish other the police departments would do the same kind of thing, or district attorneys' offices come up with cold case websites that they think might be tied to other individuals. Because one of the things that we always did in our cold case squad was that the thinking that is my case that I'm currently look at it connected to another, because often that other case could have answers to your case and vice versa. And it is a really important aspect of cold case investigations to do so.
It's interesting that I'm getting a lot. We put that idea out there in the killing season, and I think we were very early. About web sleuths, and people were kind of really, uh,
I never even heard about this stuff until I saw Killing
r-
Season. I had no
and,
idea. Back page and all this. I had no idea.
and so, but now a lot of law enforcement are coming back to me, and they are coming and saying, we really should be doing this because it doesn't take a lot of work, and it could be really easy. There's a way. By the way, Sinead, thank you. Plugging Joe's book, The Cold Case Handbook.
God, that should
I look forward to that. Joe, I want to film your book as a kind of really exciting audio visual. I'm so obsessed with the idea of shooting your book and shooting Vernon's book, and having some like cool type of thing.
Yeah, Vernon is. Yeah, I mean, he's the king of this stuff. So I mean, there's no denying that he has basically put homicide investigations on the map.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Oh,
I
and
take a
thank
unique position on it with cold cases is homicide investigations, but it's uniquely different.
Right, 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 right. And of course, True Crime with Sarge. Thank you for that. So gonna wrap it up here soon, but I have a couple other very quick notes. Was there any name on that cold case list? And by the way, let's not forget, we were talking, weren't we talking? When back in, geez, I don't know, what was it? 2000, I forget where they had the Gilgo Beach website, and they accidentally put
Yeah,
uh,
Andre Isaacs.
Andre Isaacs on.
Yeah, I don't know if it was accidentally or not because it was the whole story.
Yeah,
It was
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
was the entire story. They actually Suffolk did answer that out, I believe. They said basically it was just a test page.
Oh yeah, that's what
That
they
they
told me when I
Yeah, it
asked
was a
them.
test page. I think. Yeah, I don't know if that maybe I got that from you or
Yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah.
I
Because
don't
that
I don't exactly remember.
we went down that rabbit hole, but I was just like, these guys have don't have a lot of great experience with with websites.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? So police departments are extremely slow to adopt new technology in this stuff. I mean,
Unbelievable.
like I said, and that's and honestly, and this isn't a plug, but I wrote it in the book that executives really need to embrace this because this is where it's at. This technology, the websites, the TikToks of the world. This is where people get their news from. They're not like you and me. But at 5 o'clock, you can watch the channel, 7 News, or you read the newspaper. That's the only way you got your news. Now everybody gets their news on Twitter and all these other places. So it's a great opportunity to come up with your tips, and using things like Crime Stoppers is huge.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing is, but police departments, when they spend their money on, like, axle grabbers and shot. What is it? Shot caller or whatever.
Shot spotter. Yeah.
You know, and
And the thing is, this is free. You could do it for free. I mean, YouTube doesn't cost them any money. I mean, you could use everybody's got a phone, or you could buy a $20 mic and bring in the case detective, go to the scene, set up a tripod. I mean, we're not talking
wait,
about
so I
like
could do this with the police if I wanted. Well, I'm too old, but
there have been some police departments, including Philadelphia Police Department.
I've seen them. That's cool. I really
Yeah.
like that. I thought that was
The
cool.
Philadelphia Police Department, I really like their model. They go out, the case investigator goes to the scene, and New York City started to do this too, but they go to the scene. So they're at the crime scene, whether it's outside a building or is in a parking lot or whatever it happened. They set up a tripod and basically just talk into it. It's a 5-minute thing. This is what any tips, and they end it with the Crime Stoppers number. I mean,
Love it. I love that. Why don't they?
like, I don't know. You know what you got to do? Make
Yeah.
this a short clip somewhere and get it out there,
Okay.
because
Right.
that's
Police departments around the country. PSA for police departments around the country. Please get in touch with us, and we'll show you how to do this internally so that you can use the power. It is going to help you in unbelievable ways.
Yeah, and I would be glad to talk to any cold case squad or police department to try to help them do this. Like I said, I did it for a living. I would,
Yeah,
and
you're the
it's
perfect guy.
I'm just trying to help, right? People think you have all kinds of agendas, and just no. This is There are thousands and thousands of cold cases that happen in this country every year. Our clearance rates are falling. We have all this DNA technology and forensics, and we're still not closing cases. There are other reasons behind that, and they need to get in front of it.
Absolutely. And it's like I was in New York for 5 years, but then I moved back to the West Coast. I had no idea that this was happening. I mean, I hear that so often. I moved and had no idea. I moved and had no idea.
You know how many times, Josh, we would knock on somebody's door to talk to them about a cold case, and the person would say, "You guys are still investigating that case? It's not solved yet?" Yeah, no, they don't. People lose track of these things. They don't know that it wasn't, and you never know what somebody has, or at the time they were fearful to say something.
Right.
And now 10, 15 years later, the kids have grown up, they've moved out, they're not worried about their kids, they're not worried about anything anymore. And you know what? Yeah. Oh, you didn't know that? This was the rumor. I'll take rumors. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
not.
true.
It's
Yeah.
not evidence. It's not facts. But a rumor, I can now have something to work on it, something with a little meat on it.
Yep.
I mean,
That's another show, but really important. Okay. Wrapping it up here. First of all, everybody, thank you so much. Going to go through some questions here. Uh, Trial is looking to start Jan 2026 at the earliest.
mhm.
Good. Oh, by the way, Joe, will you be at CrimeCon this Friday?
No, I will not be at CrimeCon. I've talked at 4 different CrimeCons. I've been to Nashville, Chicago, I was invited to. Uh, I I get to a point where, unless I'm invited to come talk,
Yeah, yeah.
my time is I'm slowing things down, Josh, at this point,
No,
getting
you're just getting
yeah,
started, bro.
yeah, it's like I said, if I could do things behind the scenes, like help police departments get information out there or do things better with cold cases, I'd rather much spend my time doing that.
Oh, that's cool. I think that's not only altruistic, but
Well,
actually,
even
like,
family members, even
yeah.
family, I get emails from families,
Oh, I do
not
too.
every
Yeah,
day.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I get excuse me, I get emails from family members and suggestions. I don't call it advice because it's suggestions, because everything is, this is what I would do, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
You could choose to do something else, but I try to help as many people as I can.
Right.
And, you know,
It's good. It's good. We should really amplify that message. Okay, very quickly for wrapping up. Next decision, September 23rd, whether or not these 7 cases are all going to be tried together. I think it's ridiculous that they would ever be tried separately. Financially, it doesn't make any sense. Not going to happen. Perfunctory.
yeah,
Right?
I'll go out on a limb here and say that they're going to be all kept together.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
That's how
So
confident I am.
thanks for the big gamble on that one. Uh, um, you heard it here first, folks. Um,
I'll take the
okay,
flyer on that one.
exactly. But in all seriousness, uh, and when are we gonna get the trial date after that? Like, what's going to happen after the September?
I think that's when the judge then will probably take a few more weeks and come up with when the trial will be set up. I mean, could he do it on the same day? Yeah, I guess he can. But I mean, it's like everything else. The defense has put in another motion.
They put it, yeah.
In
They're gonna
regards,
keep
yeah,
putting in motions to keep pushing it
right.
along.
And then eventually, I think the judge is going to cut that off and saying, that's fine. You have until now this date. And I think that's where we're headed because I don't know the judge personally. I've never been in the courtroom with him, but he seems to be like a no nonsense
Oh,
kind of guy.
yeah, I love this guy. This guy is like, it's like if we had more judges like this guy across the country, we would have a slightly quicker wheels of justice because he is no bullshit. And what I love about it is the no bullshit. It's just like no, no, no. It prevents defense attorneys from pulling shenanigans, which we
Yeah.
see too much of.
Well, I do think that if they try to do some other motions, I guess after this, I think it'd be like, yeah, okay, you know what, great, fix that before we
Yeah,
start on
yeah,
January, whatever, or February kind of
exactly,
thing.
exactly. Submit that 5 hours before we start. How long, Sinead? How long will the trial last? Weeks, months? Yeesh.
Yeah, I wouldn't even venture a guess on that, but it's going to be longer than a month. I can tell you that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, just think about picking a jury is going to take a little while because how are you going to find people that have never heard about this case or don't have an opinion on this case and everything else? And that's yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but look, amazingly so. West Coast. I pitched this show. I pitched this to executives in LA, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know about this case," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Mhm.
But they don't. So right. So we're looking at months, probably.
Just
To
the amount
talk.
of evidence alone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anthony asked a great question. Sarge, got any signed copies available of your cold case handbook?
Yeah, sure, we can work. You can send me an email. We can work that out.
Yeah, Anthony, not only are we going to get you a signed copy of Joe's book, we're also going to get you the Cropsy poster signed Cropsy poster for sure. Thank you for being there with us all the time. Does anybody have any other questions? I will leave us with a couple thoughts. Carmen Vargas.
Definitely in the mix, right? Carmen Vargas, Karen Vagata, Asian Male Doe, and of course, your favorite, my favorite, because of the child involved with Tatiana and Tanya. I mean, formerly known as Peaches.
Mhm.
And I think all those cases. I think we'll see some things moving forward. It's different jurisdictional issues. Like you're looking at Karen Vagata and you're looking at Tanya. You're looking at different jurisdictions because Nassau has pieces into this. So that and I think therefore when you saw the press conferences, there wasn't any representative from Suffolk County at those because right now they got their plate full and the judges basically told them, I think.
Yeah, but we read into the fact that there was no Suffolk County person there, and that speaks a little bit.
Yes.
So that
Yeah, that's why I mentioned it again.
Yeah, that's we can discuss on the 23rd. Disclose It's interesting from Christina. The disclosure of evidence so far. How did the marshland flood zone area affect decomposition? Has it been looked at that Ray may have chosen the area because of his background and understanding geotechnical reports, environmental reports could disrupt the death timeline? Um, so I've literally been doing hours of podcasting, and our question is, why Oak Beach? Why Ocean Parkway? Why Ocean Parkway? And I admit that there could have been more victims out there that were washed away in the two major hurricanes that we have, right?
Maybe yeah, especially Sandy. I mean, if you think about it, Sandy happened not too long after the discovery
Yeah, yeah,
of these
yeah,
victims out there, and then it was I don't know how many feet of water it was under, but it was underwater, and you
it
know,
was.
yeah. And one thing you also know too about the beaches and stuff like that, the water tends to move the sand even, and the things get buried. And it takes a hurricane to do something. Who knows? 20 years from now, there could be another storm, and all of a sudden, other things are found. You really don't know, but there's an old saying that, the ocean always gives up the dead eventually. I mean, some way or another, where something happens, and then look, they're finding like what Viking ships and stuff, after a storm. Like, look, holy cow, right? Because you never know.
I didn't think we were going to go to the Edmund Fitzgerald, but nice reference.
Well, they found that one.
Makes a tear every time. But I will say that in looking at Rex, the question of why Ocean Parkway seems to be related a lot more to his hunting grounds and his dumping grounds. And there is a long history with Rex with regards to Ocean Parkway. You can, even if you want to look at what it all means, I mean, look at the belts. Look at the belt of his grandfather. Look at what that's trying to say. Look at the duck hunting. A couple of interesting things that we could talk about duck hunting after that I've found out. One last question. Was there anybody within the cold case victims that you were like, huh, interesting?
I guess the Sayville Jane Doe is up there because it's kind of out there, in that area where Sandra Castella and Andre Isaacs and all these other things, right? So you look at some of those aspects geographically, and it's near the Sunken Meadow Parkway, which leads right into Gilgo. So there's a lot of kind of geographical stuff that you would love to look at. So if they would have said to me, "Hey, Joe, look at these cases and tell me where I would go along the path."
Yeah.
Right? That,
Yes.
that we already know of, that he's been charged with. The path is from Manorville down the Sunken Meadow through, through Gilgo, through Jones Beach, up the Meadowbrook or up Wanto Parkway, right?
I mean, and it is this. If you ever watched, guys, like go and look at the route and see the circles. But again, that's a whole bunch of new information that we're going to discuss. Ren had an excellent question, but Ren, thank you for this question. But I think, Ren, what we're going to do is we're going to make your question the leadoff question. The next time we speak to Joe, which will hopefully, Joe, be somewhere around September 23rd. Can we put that on the calendar?
Yeah, well, what day of that? The school's back in session now, so we're
What are you
doing.
teaching?
I'm teaching policing this semester, so it's kind of easy. But
No.
like
Okay, come on, let us all in so we can kind of know what you're doing.
yeah, well, I teach policing, criminal investigations, and I'm teaching police use of force. So I have different. Yeah,
Jeez.
so I got a full schedule. So
And where are you teaching?
well, John Jay College, of course.
Okay. And can regular fans like us come in and audit your class?
Well, right now I'm doing it online. It's yeah, so it's kind of COVID changed a lot in teaching.
Yeah.
So and the kids want to do things online, and that's where they're at.
Right. Okay. So we can audit your class online.
Yeah.
All right. Just listen, your fans want to reach you. You gotta give them what they want. All right. So let's look when the 23rd is, everybody. The 23rd is on a Tuesday.
Okay.
So
Like, yeah, maybe in the afternoon would be good because Tuesday's a school day, but we could do it later in the afternoon.
oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. All right. So everybody, let's mark a soft hold, as we say in the biz, on your calendars for September 23rd. We're going to get that decision. And then we're going to get to Ren's question. And I think we're going to have a whole bunch of new stuff because there's a whole bunch of stuff we didn't ask. We didn't even get to on my list. And so there's a whole bunch of other issues that we still need to discuss and kind of be thinking about for the upcoming trial, questions that we need answers to, and are we going to get them? It's just, I don't know. There's a lot riding on this, I guess. Folks, thank you very much. Joe, thank you very much. As always, great to see you. And we hope to speak to you again soon.
Anytime.